So, welcome everyone back to another episode of the podcast of the Unfit and the Unharm. I am Unharm and this is my co-host Unfit. Do you want to say anything?
No.
No. You're always so chatty.
No.
You're always so
Yes,
chatty.
I'm so chatty.
What are you?
Nothing going on in my life. No. Just kidding. How
What are you,
you?
a tsundere out of nowhere?
Yes. Maybe. I don't know.
So,
Why do you care, baka?
So, the topic today, as well, it's going to be a bit of a spoiler, but when we're going to upload this onto wherever we upload this, I hope we're going to upload this in more than just YouTube, but at the moment, YouTube is our venture, but hopefully we'll be going on Spotify and maybe even Apple iTunes. Who knows? Stay tuned to that.
Who knows?
Who knows? But the title will probably be a dead giveaway, so I'm just going to say it. The title of today's podcast is Adaptations from Source Materials.
Yeah, that's the best way to put it. Basically, for anybody who don't really understand, just to simplify this does mean live actions from anime. That does mean like things like books that you adapt source material into movies. That also mean games. That basically means everything.
Everything and anything, because it's all fair game, and we're all gamers, so it should all be fair. Don't you think so?
That's gave me an idea for maybe a future thing. Tier list of best adaptations.
No,
maybe we could do something about that.
F. They're all going into
Oh,
F.
Really? Really? We'll talk about that a little bit later, which ones I don't think.
So, in order to start a little bit of a light one today, I think it's going to be very, very good for us to start with a simple one that's very recent. It's been in the past year. It's still fresh in our minds. It's something that Netflix tried to do, and it didn't quite work out so well. And that is, of course, the Cowboy Bebop live-action adaptation. Now, as we all know, Cowboy Bebop is an anime.
Oh, God. Yeah, continue, sorry.
It follows Spike Spiegel going into space. I don't want to give everything away, but
if you haven't watched it,
if you haven't watched it or read it, I actually read a little bit. I read a little bit more than watched it, because I just did not have the patience to watch through it even on ×2 speed. I'm gonna be honest. I'm not the biggest Cowboy Bebop fan. I think it was a little bit dry to my taste. I mean, don't get me wrong. They do a lot of things I can understand why a lot of people would like, because in the end of the day, it has a lot of fans, and it's not for nothing. But when you look at it in the whole picture, it's not like the most beloved anime of all time. It's not even in people's top 10. Sure, you have a lot of people who say it's my favorite anime, but it's not really everyone. It's not a great one. Where do you think it went wrong? I have a couple of thoughts, but Unfit, what do you think?
Also, just to... Are you talking about the live adaptation, or now you're talking about the show?
No, the live action. The live action.
Okay, so just finishing my thought about the Cowboy Bebop, I think it's also... When did it came out? Original one?
Oh,
the
God,
source material?
like 2000, I want to say? Earlier, maybe 1990s?
So, I think it was that's why it's not your favorite, because the style of those animes were always...
1998.
And also stories...
It came out in 1998. Yeah. I don't want to hear it. Because you know what came out before Cowboy Bebop?
What?
One Piece.
Pokemon.
Sure,
Digimon. But you have to understand that, like, there are some things that are not always worth the best.
No, I don't want to hear it. It's I watch Trigon, and I like Trigon a lot.
It's not I'm saying all of these are bad. I'm just saying, like, compared to what we have today, that it could be a little bit more understandable that it's not in all studios has a high standard of everything. That's what I'm trying to say. No, it's not even about
that. I'm just not a fan of the story.
Fair enough, then. I thought it's just something about animation and things of that nature.
No, I actually think the animation sold me on watching the first 15 episodes.
Fair.
It's just...
I mean, it's not my favorite show as well, so that's not an argue about that. But I'm just was interested to find what is your gripe with it. I guess not gripe, but you understand what I mean.
Fair enough.
Are we going to do that now?
We're always going to be doing that. And a little bit of a side note, me and Unfit love to do quotation memes of another YouTuber called Ryan George. We think he is fantastic.
Also, we love to do quotations of things that we like in general, but that's beside the point.
Yeah. No, so what I was about to say about Cowboy Bebop, I actually enjoyed reading the manga a little bit more than watching the anime of Cowboy Bebop.
That's fair. That's completely fair.
So, what do you think went wrong with the Cowboy Bebop live action adaptation?
First and foremost, before people will say it's because whatever her name is, the character that was supposed to be the female character one, I forgot what her name is. That one that was supposed to that one to wear something else, like not
Faye,
like the original one
Faye
because
Valentine.
she thought
Faye Valentine.
Yeah, so she thought it was sexist and all that stuff. That's fair, like in some degree. Okay, I can see that she doesn't want to wear that. Although I do think that they basically butchered the character and just changed it to the usual media today that bland female character. Basically, that's how they changed her. So I guess that's one of the problems.
I'm about to say something. I just want to cut you there for a second. I don't think that's a problem at all. But yeah, continue.
No, the problem is like I'm not have a problem with the fact that she doesn't want to wear things that she doesn't want to wear. That's completely fine. You cannot basically force someone to wear some particular things. And I get it. Like people will say it doesn't fit the cast stuff and everything, but that's not the problem. The problem, of course, was the writing. And of course, the same thing that always happened with live adaptations that writers don't know what to do with them is that they're trying to force their own story rather than just like, oh, hey, this is the actual story that we're adapting. Now, I'm not expecting 100% always adapting because I think adapting 100% is not a good idea because it's not as interesting or unique.
Which is what they do in almost every live action adaptation.
What do you mean?
I mean,
most live
yeah,
they don't stick to the source material at all. Recent live adaptations.
It's worse than that. They stick to the basic source material of like the story, but they rewrite a lot of the fun stuff.
Yeah. That's what I meant.
And it's basically like rewriting the entirety of, let's say, Digimon, but instead of them getting there through getting to the Digi world through, let's say, something like the Digivices and however they got. It's been so many goddamn years since I've seen it, but no, it's because of. And let's say they did that. Instead of that, they made like a whole lab of scientists and whatnot, and they made it make more sense. They're basically trying to rewrite how we remember
the story to be to fit their own story that they couldn't tell themselves, rather than just like, oh, hey, we can just write our own story and maybe it could be cool. No, we have to rewrite this story instead of just sticking to the main things. Now, again, I don't care about telling an original story. But the problem is, you're not telling an original story in the medium.
We want an original story, but we want an original story that does not interfere and does not undermine the original story.
Exactly. That's if you have a world set up and it's not your own, the biggest problem is always just focus on if you have rules set and this is the world that you have, you can't just out of the blue without explanation or just because it fits for your needs just telling a story that, let's be honest, most of the time is not even good or making any sense. Then it's just like, oh, hey, how about we'll destroy this medium?
So, on that topic, I actually want to bring up a different live action that actually does it right. And you know which live adaptation I'm thinking of?
I'm not sure. I don't know.
Aladdin. Have you seen the Aladdin live adaptation? The one with Will Smith.
I've seen it. I know that there are people who don't like it because the genie, Will Smith, and all that stuff. I don't hate it because of that. And I think I love that. I like that movie a lot. There are just some particular things I'm just like, it's a little bit bland in some points, but it is a good adaptation.
It's a very good adaptation, and I'll tell you why I love it so much. Because they realized whoever worked on Aladdin they realize that a lot of the good parts of Aladdin that people actually care about is the genie. Because when you
Hmm.
ask people who voice acted Aladdin, who voice acted Jafar, who voice acted the monkey, nobody knows and nobody cares. But
Nope.
if you ask people who did the voice of the genie, do you know who did the voice of the genie?
Everybody would remember. I don't remember from the top of my head. I
Oh, come
remember the,
on.
I
Come
forgot.
on.
My brain is not working today, you know that. I'm after 12 and a half hours work. So I think that's fair for me to say that my head doesn't work.
Come on. I'm going to give you 10 seconds to think about it.
Fine. I remember our version one from our language.
No, 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 no. We don't speak about Minecraft.
I'm not talking about Minecraft.
No, our language is Minecraft
Oh, okay.
experimentation table. Not experimentation table. Enchanting table. And some people will get this joke. Robin Williams. Come on.
Oh, okay. Robin Williams, yes.
Everybody
Robin
remembers Robin
Williams.
Williams because he sounded so animated when he was talking, and you saw the
Yeah.
animation. It fit. And something that Will Smith did quite well, and whoever wrote the script did quite well, in my, well, opinion. It's not humble. It's, in my opinion,
Hmm.
facts. They didn't change the script that much. If you rewatch Aladdin side by side with the original one, the live adaptation and the original one, you'll see that the song that the genie sings, the words that he says, and the key points,
Oh, yeah.
every single
Yeah,
thing
yeah.
that's actually quite memorable about the original Aladdin was put straight
It's still
into
there.
the live adaptation, and they basically kept it as is. Sure, you
I
lost
would
a,
say, yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah. So just finish your thought because I will add my side of the thing.
I will say that you do lose in the live adaptation a lot of the stuff that made it so great as a cartoon, because in cartoon you get a lot of facial expressions that you just cannot do in live adaptation,
That's always happens
but it's still
when
pretty
it
good.
comes to that. So yeah.
But it was still pretty good. Yes. What do you have to say, Unfit?
So first and foremost, I would say this. Really love the fact that, yes, I know people just say, oh, Will Smith wasn't a blue genie for the entire movie, but I actually like that they gave him his own kind of like thing and they didn't stick to that because I think like the blue makeup and everything was really distracting. And the fact that they also just gave him his own version of the genie that feels different, I felt was really, really good. They also just like, yes, the story is the same, but they change few things. Also, if you didn't know, the voice actor of Aladdin and the and what do you call it, of Jasmine, I believe, I'm not 100% sure that the play in the movie are actually the one that acted in the movie itself as well.
Oh,
I
really? That's
think it
cool.
is. I think it is. I'm not sure if it's 100% on that, but I think it is. But the point is, like, yeah, they changed things. It actually was really, really cool that they changed some particular stuff that, I didn't expect that they will change, but they also stick to the source material. Like, for example, they add new songs or add new things, but like the idea of the story stayed the same. Yes, the story of the genie, of course. Also, in the end, kind of like his own ending and everything, they kind of like kept it into a way that it will be just a concluded story and that's it. Which is very interesting from Disney that they didn't push for a movie too, but okay. But regardless, the point is, it's just like it was done right for the
It
most
was
part.
done
There are some
quite
small
well, yes.
some little gripes that I have with, for example, the casting for Jafar. Not because it's a bad voice, bad actor or anything. It's because the fact that like he feels like more of a wimp. Let's be honest. He didn't really fit the cast just right. He does an excellent job with what he's given, but he just feels like really small and unintimidating compared to the original, and not because of only expressions and animation. It's just like because of the voice actor of the original, he was so much more expressive, and his voice fits perfectly, which
Yeah,
is
I can
just
get behind that.
yeah.
So going back to
So
Cowboy Bebop, this is something I
and
just.
the last thing I have to say is that I don't hate the Jasmine singing about the I won't be silenced and all that stuff. The only thing I have a problem with that is just the scene doesn't really fit that song. That's my problem with it. So that's something that I'll also
That's
add.
not that big of a deal. That's not that big
Yeah,
of a
some
deal.
people hate when people say that, but yeah. Anyway, continue off.
So something I wanted to say, my biggest complaint about Cowboy Bebop is everybody says the cast was cast perfectly. I don't 100% agree with that, but it was cast as perfect as it can get. They had a lot of good actors for a lot of the
Hmm.
loved characters. They got Spike
Yep.
right. But another thing is they basically took what's his name, Pompadour. What was his name? Just a second. I'm gonna remember. No, not Jet. I forget his name. The guy with the pompadour, and they basically turn it into a side pompadour, and it's like he loses a lot of his pizzazz and wow. If we're already talking about Aladdin, like the charm that
Mm,
this one character had is lost, and a lot of it has to do with you have to make sure that when people watch a character, they will know instinctively that that character is the character that they remember. But
yeah.
moving on from all of that, one of the things I just hate the most that just ruined it all for me is simply this. It was very boring. I watched 3 episodes. 3 episodes out of 10 is, I think, fair enough to give it a chance. And I was not hooked by episode 3.
Three. How long were each episode?
40.
I would say an episode and a half in series of 40 minutes each episode is fair because in anime I most of the time just give 3 episodes a chance and that's an hour. And then if it doesn't hook me, I'm just leaving it off, unless of course it's completely bad right off the bat. But for the most part, like that's the same idea we'll do with this. And it's like I'm surprised that you held that long for 3 episodes. That's basically
I
two
give
hours.
okay, so if anybody doesn't know me, and obviously you people don't really know me quite well, so I'm going to tell you something about me that Unfit knows, but I'm just gonna put it out there. I give every single anime that I am presented 6 episodes before I decide to watch it or drop it. Doesn't matter if it's only 10 episodes. Doesn't matter if it's 400. If you can get me sinking in enough that I want to watch past 6 episodes, you got me. I'll watch it. But if by episode 6 I'm not hooked, I'm going to trash talk that anime to the end of the days
Absolute death.
because okay, a lot of you don't know this, but when you make YouTube videos, this is I'm about to give up a little bit of a secret. You have you have the first 15 seconds to decide if the video is going to do well or not.
Mm.
Unfit, do you have anything to say about that?
Yep. Most of the time when people watch videos for them, like don't get me wrong, there's retention time of like people, baseline of like could be 2 minutes, but like there are some videos that I open up on YouTube sometimes and I'm looking at them 15 to 20 seconds of like, nope, that's not doing it for me. And I just don't really care, or I just skips ahead to see if something interesting will happen in the continuation of the video, and then it's like if it doesn't fit, yes, unfit my criteria of needs, I will basically, or what I would like to see, I will basically just drop it because it's not interesting to me. It's just a waste of time.
Correct. So I give every anime 6 episodes, which correlates to around 2 hours because in anime world an episode is usually 22 minutes, so let's just say it's 20
Hmm.
minutes. 3 episodes is an hour. I watch 2 hours worth and I'll decide if it's good or not, and more often than not they're not good. They're in fact very very bad. And when I watch something that actually keeps me in, I'm going to praise it. Like I made on my video, I don't know when this will come out, but at the time of recording, it's been like a week or two since I made it. I made a video about an anime called Aoashi, which I recommend everyone to go
The
watch my video,
football one, the
watch my
soccer
video
one
and
for
watch it.
American videos,
Yeah,
right? The
it's a
soccer
soccer
video.
anime. It's a soccer anime that
Yes.
I think if you honestly gave it a chance, you'll realize this was the best anime of the season, and I am not kidding. But
Interesting.
re- Regardless, that's not everything that we're here to talk about today.
Yeah, I don't really have a lot of time to watch anime, so maybe I will give it a chance when I have the chance. But that's probably going to take a little bit of a while. Regardless, I'm just going to add this for a lot of the thing that, like, yes, there are a lot of interesting animes every single season. It's just I'm going to say this:
Mm,
not all of them are good because they're always because there's so many. Like it's became just now kind of like how should
copy
I name this?
paste.
Kind of like
They become
copy
copy
paste, and
pastes.
it's like become copy paste and it's just become some kind of like just print as much as possible and create as much as possible. An industry. Then it's just like yeah, there will be like 90% trash if not more, and then just 10% that is good. And then in that 10% there will be like about like overall like 1% that is peak. And that takes a longer time to find actually something that is peak. Like I find good things, I just don't find things that I think are peak,
Oh
basically, for
yeah,
the most
yeah,
part.
yeah. Which is why you'll often hear me say, I don't know if I've said it enough, but when I talk about anime, when I give anime personal ratings, I almost never give an anime over a 7. If I gave it over a 7,
Oh yeah,
that means it
that
was
means you really like
incredible.
it. And I
Bec-
think that's a fair rating because a lot of people just think like, oh, if you don't give something an 80 or a 90, that means that you hate. Not really. It just means that I don't absolutely love it. It's like sometimes it's like 50 just mean like it's pass in my eyes. It just pass. It doesn't mean that
if
I love it.
if something gets over a 6, that means it was hype. It was hype and it did so well.
Like for example, just I'm trying to think about it. I don't remember that one, the Vivi one, which was a really cool one that I liked about the robot musician. I don't remember what her name is. I think it was named Vivi of the Spring Song or something of that nature. I really like
Okay.
that one. I think it was really good. And I don't know if you watched that one because I
No,
think
I did not
one of
watch
our
that
mutual
one.
friends suggested you, but I think I recommend it to you. I watched that one, and it's just for me, just it wasn't one of my top 10 favorites, but I really like it, and I will give it an 8. It was really good. It's not a 10 for me, it's really good in my eyes, but it not be more than an 8 because it's just not in my top things. It's not that high level for me. It just pass, most things
Oh,
basically.
Vivi of the Blue Eye.
Yeah, that one.
Yeah, Vivi of the Blue Eyes. Okay. I'll give it a try. I'll give it 6 episodes. Why
I
not?
think it's really good.
I'm very fair. I think
It's
six
pretty
ep-
interesting in world.
Let me ask you a question. Do you think
Yeah.
if I give it 6 episodes, I'll get hooked?
I think so. I'm not sure
Okay.
if you like it 100%. I don't remember who is the creator of it. It's someone known. I don't remember who's
Tapai
that is, but I like.
Nagatsuki.
I don't remember what he created. Also, maybe a thing that you don't like. I
Oh,
forgot.
ReZero?
Yes, but he actually created a really interesting thing
I
here.
don't. Okay,
I
okay.
really.
I gave ReZero. I always say I give it like a 4.9, even though in my heart it's more of a 4.5. But that doesn't mean I hated it. I know I did hate it, but like it doesn't mean like it was complete trash in my eyes. I mean, obviously people love it and there's a good reason for it, but it doesn't mean that I necessarily want it gone. You know what I mean?
Fair enough.
Fair enough.
I
Yeah.
had to. But yeah, I do see that. Like, I don't know. Just before we jump right into the topic again, I do think it's a good show in my eyes. I enjoyed it a lot, and it was pretty interesting for me, and actually something that I waited always at the end of Saturdays to actually watch because it
Hmm.
was really interesting to me, and I really like it. Maybe it's not fits your style, but I really liked the idea of the story that he created there. As for ReZero, I just didn't really like. I liked season 2, but not that much because it just felt like very
Yeah.
much like 50% of it was just like I understand the idea, the despair, and everything, but it's like God, it was such a long season. It was such a
Right.
season. Just
So
felt like
from so now I want to move
50% of
on
it was
to
crap.
to a live action adaptation that is so bad I've actually decided that it's good. Do you know what that is?
Nope.
The Dragon Ball live action adaptation.
Oh, you mean good for the case of
It's so bad that it's
jokes
good.
and
Yeah,
memes and
yeah.
everything.
and I watched it
But is it
recently.
enjoyable bad or just bad?
No,
Is
it's
it
just bad. It's not.
enjoyable to
It's not
watch?
enjoyable. It's not enjoyable at the very least.
It's just good for the meme economy, basically.
Exactly. But I actually did rewatch it in the past year. So when I rewatched it,
Why did you do that to yourself?
I'll tell you why. Because there was this
Okay.
one meme that I saw. I don't remember where I was. I could have been on Reddit. I could have been like in other places. I saw a meme
Hmm.
of the Dragon Ball live action adaptation. I was like, wait, is that what they say in that scene? Because if they do, then that's hype. So I was searching on YouTube and I got nothing. I don't even remember right now what the meme was. So I was like, you know what? I'm gonna do it to myself, and I watched it on
Okay.
speed 2
And did
for
they say
40
that?
minutes. And let me tell you something, it was terrible. And you know what's the worst part?
They didn't
The
say the
meme
thing.
the meme is from the bloopers.
Huh. So it's kind of like it's morbing time, but a little bit more legit, but from the bloopers. Okay, interesting.
They don't even say it in the bloopers, but you see that scene in the bloopers and you're like, oh, that's where that's from. And it was just miserable. And let me tell you something, they try to make the technology in the live action of Dragon Ball make a little bit more sense, because they try to do like the cool
Hmm.
animations and everything, where it's like, oh, instead of it being a cloud, we're actually gonna do something with it so that it looks a bit more like a gear clockwork type of thing. And
I
when
mean,
you
the idea of making it something different could have been cool, but you could have just not called it Dragon Ball and just do something of your own nature. And it was, I wouldn't say it would be more amazing as a movie, but people will accept it better. I
yeah.
understand why companies do that because they want to hype people and create the rage attention or whatever that called. I forgot the term for that. Like rage the people who like don't want to watch it and everything, and just like create a lot of attention around it. Just bait raging, I guess. But like I think in this particular case, it wasn't bait raging because it was really before bait raging was a thing that companies do. It just like I think they tried something, but like no, just no. As a story, it could have worked for yourselves. Not amazing one, but the fact that you felt like you need to slap Dragon Ball on it, just like why? But
No,
you know which live adaptation is more notorious than this one? Well,
yes,
maybe on the same level, but
all
which
of
one is more
them,
notorious than this
all
one?
of them.
There is one that is widely known to be one of the worst, if not the worst, even more than this one as a live adaptation, and that is the well, Shyamalan version of Avatar. That's
Oh,
even
you mean the
worse, in my
greatest version
opinion.
of Avatar: The Last Airbender?
Yes, where they bend rocks.
where
That
they
not even a rock.
where it
They
takes
they
10
20
people.
people bend.
It takes 10 people to throw a pebble.
Yes, basically. And the races like and coloring and everything. And I'm not saying like
I don't
races
hate
because
the
of that,
idea of
because of
race,
like
and I don't hate the idea of
no, no,
race.
no, no, no,
Oh,
no, not
but you
race.
know what's
The
even
idea of
worse?
the coloring of the Fire Nation and the Water Nation again is swapped, which doesn't make any sense because in the
You
story
forgot.
it was supposed to be that way for a reason.
You forgot.
But
You forgot
anyway,
even something even worse. The fact that
what?
firebenders need like a large amount of fire in order to bend it.
Yes, the
It's,
entire cool idea of firebenders in the show for I think everybody that's listening to this watched it. The idea is that firebenders are the
uh,
only type of bender because fire is not around that can create fire out of their breath. Because that makes a lot of sense. Otherwise, they just need to carry torches and everything is around. So that's fair for them in order to balance them and actually make them into a
Wait, no,
threat.
no, no.
Because
They can't use their breath for firebending. Only Iroh can in the
no, no,
end
no,
of
no, no,
it.
no, no,
Oh
no,
no!
no, no, no,
Spoiler
no, no,
alert!
no,
You're
no,
not
no,
gonna
no,
watch
no,
that
no,
movie.
no,
Trust me,
no,
you're not gonna watch that movie.
no, no, no,
It
no.
is
You don't
quite
get that.
painful. It was quite
What I'm trying
painful.
to say is that when they do, I'm not meaning like breathing fire out of your mouth, but the idea of fire bending is come from your breathing and your style. It doesn't come from like It's even explained
No, no,
as
no. What
Azula, and also Ira explains it
in
in the show.
in the show? No, no.
In the
It doesn't
show, they
come from the
explain
breath. It comes from your
it's not
chi.
from the breath. It's
No, it comes from the
basically yes, your
chi.
chi, something like balancing and thing of that nature. It doesn't really come from like from your. what I tried to say is like, creating your like, body movements and all things of that nature, while other elements just need like, just their own element around. So that's basically a harder element to use technically. But that's the coolest thing about the Fire Nation, is that the Fire Nation is such a threatening force, even though they don't really create their element. Like, just carry their element around. They basically create it from their chi, or, fighting style, or just like, just techniques and everything. That's kind of what makes them so scary, because they can just create fire out of a whim. For example, if you locked an earthbender in, a metal cage before Toph discovered metal bending, that was the end for them.
Yeah,
Waterbenders, if you don't give them water, that's the end for them. Airbenders are technically overpowered in a way, because you can't really
their
take
element
air
is all
unless
the
you
time.
suffocate them
Yeah,
and
their
kill
element is all the
them.
time around them. Yeah.
Yeah, but like there is ways to deal with them, because if you kind of like stop their movements, and that's why I really liked Zahir in season 3, or should I say
See,
when
we're
he's
not
doing in
here to
season
talk
four.
about Avatar, at least
Yeah,
not
yeah, yeah. The
yet.
point is, the point is what the point is. I'm not trying to kind of enter into spoilers too much. The point is, he still had the ability to float and everything, but he couldn't move his arms and everything and use bending, because part of the bending is just using your arms and everything. But firebenders are kind of more flexible in that, because the fact they kind of have a like have a disadvantage, but they also want to make them super scary. So they actually did a really good job in the
Oh,
show.
oh, in the show, yes. I was about to say
In the show, in
in
the
the live
movie,
in the movie, it was more
in
like,
the
"Uwu,
movie,
please let me have my fire, Uwu."
yes, basically, ooh, let me win, ooh. And also, it didn't help that all of the actors just felt like they're looking into a script that somebody held in front of their face and they're reading it for the first time. That's really how that felt watching this. It's just like, oh no, Aang is in trouble. We must help him. Come on, Sokka, let's go save our friend. That's basically how it felt
It
to me
honestly felt
when I
like
kind of like watched it a little bit.
remember in the show in season 3 of the last Airbender, when they're retelling the entire show, but in like a bad acting,
Bad
and
variation and
you
acting
know what I'm
is.
talking about, right?
It was felt the worst version of that.
It was a worse
Okay,
version
it
of
felt a
that, yeah.
parody version of that, and that parody was good.
Now that parody was better than the original. I'd actually watch that.
I really like that episode. That episode, I think it called Fire Carnival or Fire Theater or something of that nature. I don't remember the name, but it was a really cool episode that also just felt like a really cool calm before the storm of the last part of the show, which was the 4 episode of Southern Comet,
But
which was amazing, by
But
the
you
way.
know what I think is like the worst part of the live action adaptation that Avatar: The Last Airbender had?
What?
They did not bring any element of comedy.
Oh no.
It was just
At the very least, in some live adaptations, even though they suck, and even in Dragon Ball, like Dragon Ball Evolution, they still bring you some kind of comedy, bad comedy, but they're
whoa
still
whoa whoa whoa
trying.
whoa 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 whoa. In meme form, that comedy is worth its weight in gold.
You understand what I mean? It's just
I'm
like
kidding. I'm
unless
kidding.
you're unless you're trying, and that's why I kind of consider the Airbender, or should I say, Shyamalan version of Avatar to be the worst, because it just doesn't really have anything interesting for it. Like even in terms of like concept or maybe ideas, I don't really think it could have been salvaged in any way, kind of shape or form
Yeah, but
at all.
Avatar isn't the only. Avatar was done as a big production from like a big studio, but
Yes.
all the time big studios like they're only in it to see the money, and they don't see the art, and
Hmm.
they end up losing both. Like the biggest one that has been doing it is, as we all know, Netflix. And you know what other
Don't
live
remind me what happened with Resident Evil and Halo. Don't remind me what happened with those recently
why
as
not?
well. Just because I didn't even watch them, but I kind of like just heard about them and just like was absolutely terrible where it comes
I'll
to
be honest.
everything.
The Resident Evil live action adaptation was just as good as the adaptations that they did for the show. They did an animated adaptation, like a 3D animated adaptation, that was just as bad.
Hmm.
So I didn't expect
The
anything
3D
going into it.
adaptation
And
was a
that's like one
little
of the
bit
biggest
better than
lessons
that.
that obviously can be learned, and everybody who is listening and watching on YouTube should know this, that never go into live action adaptations or any live adaptations expecting them to fulfill every fantasy that you had while first time, getting into any source material. For example, when we got the Harry Potter live adaptation back in the year 2000, it was wonderful.
Oh, these were still the golden days that actually adaptations were kind of close to the source material. Now, I'm not saying Harry Potter the movies follow exactly page to page through the
Oh, it's not.
books,
It's
and
like
I think
30%,
people
20 to 30% accurate, but yeah, but it was very
and
entertaining.
I
It
do like that. I do like that. Like a lot of people like to complain all the time. Like people like I know that the source material in this particular case was better. Let's be honest, because
Oh,
you
not
have to
even
cut things for
close.
movies.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I'm trying to say this: the idea of how they did this and actually made this into movies was really good, and everybody that's complaining all the time and still saw the movies. Oh, the movies are not like the books. Probably now, kind of just like I wish these were our live adaptations. At least these are close to the source material, and at least trying to tell the idea of the story, changing things to fit the genre or media, but still like giving you the actual core of the story. Because yes, there's some particular things that change. For example, and I'm saying that there's some Harry Potter movies that were not really that good compared to the others, but they weren't terrible. Like for example, Goblet of Fire, I think was the worst one, or the fifth one was the worst one. The Phoenix
The
Order, I think the Phoenix Order for me was the worst one because the longest books was the shortest movie, and we had nothing in that movie. Because I think one of the biggest problems that they have is because book five has this particular big romance and a lot of like fluff and everything. So it's like they didn't really know what to do with it. So they had to shorten it out. So that makes sense. And I kind of like looking back at like I watched with my sister just because she wanted to watch with me something in English and kind of like learn English, which is something that I
oh,
did
that's
with her
nice.
a little bit a while back. Because that's something like she's trying to learn, and like we watched all the 8 Harry Potter movies. Started with subtitles for her because she's not in a high level, but she still kind of like understood some of the things that when we kind of like just trying to go back on over things. And
Yeah.
it's like these she said that like yes she doesn't really that much like fantasies, but she liked the movies. And if she likes the movies, it's like the movies, and someone that didn't read the book, it's fine. It means that the movies are good. Like they're not perfect, but they're good. They're serviceable. They're good enough.
What
They're
I
actually
think.
just interesting by themselves, and
What.
just they were done correctly.
No, so I was about to say what I think they did right in the movie. Instead of trying to capture word for word, they were or scene for scene, they were capturing the mood, mood for mood.
Hmm.
Like if a mood needs to be serious, it doesn't matter how you get there as long as you get there. If a mood needs to be, chirpy and happy, then you can set it out
It will
however
be
you
there.
want, as long as you set the moods. Because a lot of people remember moods more than they remember jokes and more than they remember other things. Because I'll be honest, I don't remember
Because
this.
the scene is created by the way that the weight of things around you. Because for example, if you have a very important scene that is supposed to be very serious and everything, and then you cut it with a joke, most of the time it can actually destroy the scene because the mood was perfect, and then you're just like, oh, let's just throw this joke in there, and it's just like ruining everything.
Right. So I was about to say, so in the book they don't throw in jokes when the mood is supposed to be serious, because that, when you're reading and you're getting into it and you're like, okay, I'm in the second book right now. We are down in the dungeons in the chambers of secrets, right? And we're
Hmm.
down there. We're with Flockhart. We're with Genie. We're trying to save Genie. Imagine if suddenly out of nowhere when the
Yeah, yeah.
basilisk came out and Harry said, "Oh, this looks like dinner from last Monday." Ha ha ha. How much would that ruin the entire scene?
I mean, sometimes these particular jokes are funny, but not in these particular cases. And I think, like, at least previous Marvel films nailed correctly the good jokes with still very, very,
Debatable,
serious
but
scene because
okay.
they didn't really throw. Yeah, I'm not saying debatable compared to what we have today. Okay, compared to what we have today, they still kind of like find a way to kind of like make serious moment, but sometimes throw jokes, and it was okay. But today it's just terrible. But the point is just like it's really, really just ruining the moment. Like if the movie's supposed to be a satire thing and like supposed to be all about humor, that's completely fine, even though sometimes it's still, even in those movies, ruin the moment because that's the genre. But not everything needs to be humor in order to keep somebody engaged, because sometimes the jokes are actually the thing that just ruin everything. Not all the time when I'm watching a movie, I'm trying to like watch a movie because I want to see the jokes. I actually want to see the movie because I'm interested in the story and
And I
I'm
want
interested
to,
in the
and
characters
you want to feel
and I want
something.
to see the genre. And also, yes, and I also want to see the genre. For example, when I'm tapping, for example, just basic, like action flick, like Fast and Furious. I'm not saying I'm watching these. I expect that. That's part of the thing. That's part of the genre. That's fine. But for example, let's say I'm going into scary movie, right? I don't want to see in a scary movie unless it makes sense for this, like the exact moment to just like give a really, really good payoff for the scene. Like for example, like somebody throwing kind of like a joke and then it just like get nabbed by the monster or something, which makes sense for the scene. I don't want to see those kind of jokes because they ruin everything.
You know,
So it
you
doesn't make any sense.
you said something that made me remember something that I want to like share. So a couple of years
Okay.
ago, my parents decided to go watch a Mission Impossible movie, like one of the newer ones, and they asked me if I wanted to come
Mm-hmm.
with them and watch it with them in the movie theater. They said our treat, and I said no, I'm good. Once you see one, you see them all, because that. Have you ever seen the Mission Impossible movies?
Yeah, I've seen one of the first ones. I think the first one,
It doesn't
but
matter.
I
They're
don't
all the
remember
same.
everything.
They're
Yeah.
all the same.
Yep.
Trust me on that. When you've seen one, you've seen them all. Anyways,
Mm-hmm.
so I tell my parents about that. I've seen one. You've seen them all. Nobody goes to watch. Nobody goes to watch these movies for the plot. You go to watch to see Tom. What was his name? Not Tom Hanks.
Tom
Uh,
Cruise,
Tom
I
Cruise,
think, right?
right. Everybody goes to see what kind
I
of
watch it
crazy
for the
stunt Tom
plot.
Cruise goes to do because that's where the action is. That's where the story. That's where like
Yes.
the story is because I don't want to ruin it for anybody who hasn't seen a Mission Impossible movie because if you're listening to this
Yes.
and you have not watched a single Mission Impossible, you pick any of them that you want to watch. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I don't know what number they're up to at this point. I
Now,
think
granted, there are some of them that are worse than others because of everything around them, but the point is, they're kind of all the same.
no. They're not kinda. They're all the same. Because and let me tell you something, the Mission Impossible movies are bangers. Those are like straight eights. I love them so much, so much because like when I'm going to watch them, I know exactly what I'm going to get when it comes to the plot. But they stick
There's
it
7
with
of them?
the intensity. They stick it with whatever crazy stunt Tom Cruise is about to do. You know, like what elephant is he going to tame this time? That's what we want to see. And that's why I love the Mission Impossible movies, and that's why I love so many different, things in live adaptations. And when I go watch these live adaptations that they claim are good, like let's say the Full Metal Alchemist movie, the live adaptation movie. Have you heard of it?
No, I haven't seen it.
So I unfortunately watched parts of it, just to see if I'm going to like it or not. Spoiler alert, the answer is not. Because Edward doesn't really look much like Edward. Like, yes, they took a guy who's blonde and they gave him a very specific, face. but they didn't give him a face. They
I
chose a
mean,
guy with a
if
very
sometimes
specific face,
he
but it just
looks a
didn't.
little bit different,
But it just didn't
if
feel
someone
right.
at least looks a little bit different sometimes, just sorry to cut you there, I'm fine with it if they're changing the look sometimes, as long as they're keeping a little bit of like the original look. Like it feels like a little bit of like him. But if it's just nothing like him, just like taking a blonde guy or even a guy, just putting on him a wig and a coat, and it doesn't really feel like him, then it's just like, yeah, no, I agree with you. It just ruined the moment or the character.
And you know when a lot of times people tend to like overshadow the eyebrows. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Like when the eyebrows are a different shade of color than the hair, and then that's like, come on, bro, come on. It's like when you're watching
We
someone
know what
using
kind
a.
of eyebrows you have.
It's like when you're watching someone using a green screen, but you can see like the green chroma around it. You know what I mean?
Yes, I know what you mean.
And it's
It's
like
always hilarious.
it's always hilarious, but it's always immersion breaking. And I'm trying to get
Yes.
immersed into whatever I'm watching. If I'm, let's say, watching, uh, I don't know, I hate to say it, I'm a huge Bleach fan, but the Bleach live adaptation was just miserable. I don't care what anybody says. I was not immersed into it because when they brought out like the Bleach live action adaptation, when was it? Like in 2018, I think. I think I watched it during COVID, but that's not the point. The
Yes.
point is,
I
when I was
think
watching it,
that's
I did not believe for 1 second that that was Ichigo. Let's start with the fact that his hair wasn't spiky. They made it like a little bit bushy, and they were like, "Yeah, that's spiky hair." No, no, that's not spiky hair.
that's
Then you
not a
bring,
spiky hair.
then you bring Rukia, who is, I don't know. She didn't talk cutely at all. Like how sometimes she talks cutely just to be annoying with like the bunnies.
Yes.
So I didn't feel that at
Yes.
all, and that was was it a movie or a series? I don't remember, but either way, I just did not buy it. And if what you're creating nobody's buying, nobody's going to buy the other ones. Mind you, the live adaptation that they do in Japan is like leagues ahead of what they do in Netflix, but still not.
Oh yeah, but they're still not good.
No, they're still not that good. And
I think if you want funny or good live adaptations, go to India because India just have their own level of genre of humor.
no, 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 no. Indian movies are on a completely different level. They
That's a whole different topic for another time, but just remembering that for a second.
Indian movies are basically they're all trying to replicate Neo from Matrix.
Oh yeah, basically. Oh my god.
Right. So
They're
back to Harry
hilarious, some
Potter.
of
There's
them.
there's actually something about the Harry Potter that I wanted to mention. Have you ever seen the fanfics? Not fanfics, but like the fan films. I didn't mean to say fanfics. I don't know why I said it, but here we are. I meant to say fan films. There are a
Which
lot of
one?
good fan films in the Harry Potter universe. Have you seen any of
Fan
them?
films?
Fan films, yes,
Is there
sir.
fan films?
Yes, sir.
Live action fan films
Yes, sir.
that people made?
Yes, and it's for free on YouTube. If you want to Google one
Interesting. I
that is
never
25
really.
minutes and worth every second of your time, Severus Snape and the Marauders.
I'm not saying I'm like don't like Harry Potter. I'm just not like a huge fan of Harry Potter.
No,
I think it's
no, no,
cool.
no.
I think it's
Trust me when I tell you this.
no, no. I'm not
This
saying I'm not
this is
saying I
actually
will not watch it.
insane. It was actually
I'm not saying I will not watch it, but I'm saying like I'm not a huge fan. That's
no,
what
no,
I'm
no.
trying to
I'll
say.
be honest with you. I'm not a huge fan of Harry Potter. Not a huge fan of Harry Potter, also. But like back when I was a huge fan and I watched it, it made me so happy because you got to see. I'm gonna give a little bit of a taste. I'm not gonna give everything away. But
Okay.
the main premise of the story is Severus Snape is like 17 or 18 or something like that, and he meets James Potter
Hmm.
when James Potter is 17 or 18, and obviously his
Okay.
friends. And these are stuff that aren't in the books, they aren't anywhere. It's somebody wrote it, and it fits so well into the universe. I'm telling you, it was
Is it the fact that
incredible.
he when he bit? was beaten up or something by them or something of that nature.
I said a taste. I'm not giving away the entire cow. Come on.
No. Because if that's what I think it is, I think it's like something that is mentioned in the movies and the books, but not really actually explained on too much. So maybe they kind of like took the idea of the scene from
Correct.
somewhere in the books and in the show or show in the movies and essentially expanded on it.
You know,
Which that's why
Harry Potter would have worked better as a show. Now that you say it like that.
yes, yes. There are some particular other things that I also really like that could have worked better at a show. One of them that doesn't really work better at the show, at least today, or at least I'm not sure if it's out yet, but maybe it is Lord of the Rings. If we're talking about things that are very, very close to that. As of
Oh
course you have
yeah.
something else to say about Harry Potter.
You know, Harry Potter, Lord of the Rings, kind of the same thing. You know, both have big white wizards
The
and
mhm.
with long beards that basically wave
the
staffs that they shouldn't have, and they
problem
both ride on eagles or something like that. Maybe not Dumbledore, but you know what I mean. You know, Gandalf had the eagles.
I would not be
Dumbledore had the
surprised
phoenix.
if
You know,
J.K. Rowling just took a little bit of inspiration from Tolkien's work. I will not be surprised
I'll be
for a
honest
little
with
bit. She
you.
took a little bit of inspiration.
Everybody's ripping off Tolkien's work. Have you seen this one show that everybody hyped up for 10 years and at season 8 they decided to drop because they said it's just so bad?
Which one?
Oh, come on. Hunger Games. Come on. Oh, whoops. I
Oh,
said
that
it
one.
out loud. Oh, well, if I already said it. Hunger Games. I watched one or two episodes
I didn't watch a single
and I was
episode
just
of
not
Hunger
into
Games
it.
because I hate the books with a passion. Not because of like, they're not good in what they are, but there are some particular things that just like I read them and it's just like that's such a low level to tell a story. I don't care about these so graphical things about what happening there and there on some particular things, but that's my own personal taste. Like, don't get me wrong, I don't have a hard time with like with graphic stuff, but it's like there's some particular things that I just don't care about, and you're just giving them a graphic explanation that is disgusting.
It's not
Let's
even
just
that's
say that
disgusting. It's boring.
as
Come
well.
on.
That's also a thing.
Like if I wanted to watch
Uh,
this kind of stuff, I'd go on to a different website. You know what I mean? But like, I'm not into that kind of stuff. I don't want to watch that stuff.
yeah,
I'm
there's
not gonna
easier
merge.
things.
Uh,
There's easier things to go into if you're interested in that kind of stuff, which I think some
correct.
of you already know what we want to, and actually even more of like more mature and actually just okay.
Mm.
I'm not saying okay, but you understand what I mean. Like more of like why just take the taste if you want to take the entire cup? Like why is that doing it for you? I'm not getting it. But point is, back on topic. Not talking about about that Thrones or whatever that's called, Game of Thrones and House of Dragons or whatever that is.
All right,
I'm
and Game
talking
of
about Lord
Thrones.
of
I
the
got mixed
Rings.
up between Game of Thrones and Hunger Games. I'm so stupid.
That's completely fine. Because you said Hunger Games, it reminded me of Game
I'll
of
be honest
Thrones.
with you.
That's completely
Uh,
fine.
I want to say something. Hunger Games was also pretty bad, but like I'm thinking of Game of Thrones. I put them all in the same category.
Just edit it later that you just made Hunger Games and before Hunger Games, Game
I
of
get
Thrones
mixed up
before that.
sometimes, you know. I can monologue and I can, start talking stupid things and not realize where I'm at. And I'm like, oh no, how did I get to this Maserati? You know what I mean? Oh, whoops. My Bugatti's waiting for me right next to Andrew Tate's one. Oh, well, no, I did it again.
Anyway, speaking about Lord of the Rings, I'm not even talking about Lord of the Rings, the live adaptation, because I think it came out and already there's some episodes out. I'm not talking about the fact that it's like, racially corrected series now, that they're trying to racially correct everything, even though it
Boo.
doesn't make any sense in Tolkien's world. And there's a reason why things are looking like that, because the world is created by a very old English man from I don't remember exactly when he wrote it, but you know what I mean.
A
And
hundred
it's just
years, a
like
hundred
there is
years
a reason.
ago.
For, yes, and there's a reason why things are written like that, and they are not supposed to be, nicely and racially correct. They're supposed to be sometimes racist and assholes. So I don't really see the reason why they're needed to do that. The other thing that I have a problem with the new thing that I heard is the fact that it just every character there has to be like at least female character has to be a girl boss for example, which is just really, really annoying. And also, there are some particular things of miscasts and characters that are just like done incorrectly and everything. And of course, the mood also suck, which is also another different kind of thing. There's some people who like it and giving it a chance, and maybe if I watched it, I would like it more than I'm saying. But like, I already watched the originals, and the originals, like everybody's saying that they're good, and I'm not like talking about like old people of like boomer age and higher that are saying like, oh,
Well,
it's not as good as it used to be.
watch what you
Just
say
give me a
about
second to
boomers.
finish. Shush, shush. Just let me finish. It's basically, this age or higher that people are just like, oh, it's like it's not as it used to be. No, even people of very younger age and everything, just saying that like this adaptation doesn't come close and hold a candle to the original adaptation from the books, which was the three movies, which weren't 100% correct to the books, but were still absolutely amazing compared to everything. Like it's even more amazing than Harry Potter ones, and Harry Potter ones are actually old, and at least in my eyes, in a really high regard for live adaptations. These were like I think taken like a lot of from the source materials. I would say like 80% from the source material. Like they were done so much like almost by the page, and just really like they had to cut things, of course, but they done things so beautifully and correctly, and the story still felt like if you're watching this or reading the books, it's still fine. It's still a new thing, and it feels a little bit different for each one of these.
Yeah, so you mentioned Lord of the Rings, so you know what I want to mention?
What?
The Hobbit. Oh, I
Oh
love The
God.
Hobbit. Have you seen The
I
Hobbit?
mean, I love The Hobbit, but I do have a problem that they stretched the one book to three movies, and they kind of like took the
You
first
know
book,
what?
make it a
It
movie, and then the
worked.
two
It
ones.
worked
Fair
because they
enough.
didn't miss out. They didn't miss out on details. They took one book. They
Oh,
turned.
because they took everything.
Yeah,
Yeah, because I would say that I would like seeing like I'm not saying like it should have been like that and everything. That's fine that the Lord of the Rings series have three books and three movies, but I would not hate to see like for example for the final movie split into two, just like the Deathly Hallows for Harry Potter because it was so long and there were some particular things that were missed. Or for example, if needed be, just split the movies into two parts
it's
each.
more
Like
money.
why not?
It's more money that you're
Yes.
making. You're hyping people up. You're giving people more. It's There's no reason not to do these kinds of things because a lot of people.
Unfortunately,
Yeah.
no, finish your thought
Uh,
because a lot of people.
no, so I was gonna say a lot of people want to see these things in more detail. They don't want to like get a microwave version of of let's say they don't nobody wants to eat a microwaved meal. People want to get it in the oven. People want to let the dough rise, put on the pasta, and get the right type of cheese in order to make this perfect pizza. Nobody really wants to eat microwaved pizza. Am I right about that?
Yep, nobody want to do that, and unfortunately, companies just care about money,
No, no, caring
and they
about
think
money
that
is
will make
fine.
them.
I Everybody cares about money to a
I like
degree.
it. I like money.
I
That will
like
make
money
me more
too.
money.
Wait,
You,
never mind. No, but
you
like
don't.
when you make these kinds of these projects, when you make these kind of projects where you know
Hmm.
that you're just going to get hatred for cutting out a big portion of the story, then either make it a 3 hour or 4 hour film or make it into two-hour films. Like there was a King Kong movie
Yeah.
back in 2007, I want to say, that was like 3.5 to
Hmm.
4 hours, and it was incredible because that they stuck to the book. I think, if I remember correctly, I remember reading a review about it. How people say how they stuck to the book, and it just came out great. And
Hmm.
people want more. Nobody wants less.
And also the other problem in my eyes is the fact that companies are a little bit, or companies, creators of movies are a little bit lazy, and they're just creating like very lazy formulaic stories that are just like bland. You put them in a blender and you're just creating a story out of
I
them.
don't think
And
that's
also another
fair.
thing,
I don't think that's fair.
no, not all of them, not all of
No,
them,
no, that's not what I mean.
some of them.
No, that's not what I meant. I don't think that's fair because a lot of times when writers want to write, then they have a lot of people above them who tell them we only have 90 minutes
Oh
to
no, I'm not
deliver a
talking about the
movie.
writers. I'm
And
talking
then
about
and the
like what
writers
the
just have
company
to
is
cut it
doing.
down further and further to the point where, we start off with a giant cucumber and we're only getting one slice.
I would say this, not what I meant about the writers. Sorry, maybe I didn't specify. I meant like as an overall product what they're trying to do, like trying to make this as like as short and concise as possible, and just basically just give something bland because they think that will make them money. Because that's what Graph says about like movies during this time. Like everything just was put into a science rather than just like being actually creative. Not to mention also the fact that like companies or creators like the people above the writers and everything just taking these like names of a brand and just slap it on something that doesn't even make any sense. And another thing, a good example for what you said earlier about the cucumber and everything is actually, well, not the most perfect movie, but actually a really good example for that is the Zack Snyder version of Justice League. Basically that's a really good version, like good example of that one, because that was a movie of, I believe, of like 4 hours that was supposed to be chapters and everything, and it was just cut down and is not recognizable and was changed completely into something else.
Well, yeah, that's why we have YouTube for. YouTube, when you have bad people who basically take things that other people make and cut it down and make out of it, these little AMVs, that's their job, not
Mm-hmm.
Hollywood's. And not just not
Yep.
Hollywood's. There are creators all over who do the same stuff. Like they take a lot of the good parts of a story and they just cut it down to like the bare bones, and they're like, yeah, this is what we have. That
Mm-hmm.
just annoys me.
Now, if they upload like a short clip of like something that you want to see again, or like to show to your friends to suggest a thing of like even if it's not profit or everything, like a short like 30 seconds or a minute or two of like, your favorite moments, that's fine. But like taking it, then putting a music on it and just like making it like a cool fight or everything is just like that's also just distort the source material and just like doesn't really add anything. It
No, it
just
doesn't
like
add
that's
anything.
that's
But
dumb.
by the way, have you seen the show of The Boys?
Oh yeah, that's also a thing that I actually want to talk about and I forgot. Which we
So
can actually talk about it to finish everything off if you want to.
I want to talk about The Boys about no, not about the show itself, but about something else that they're doing. Now, if you guys don't know, the people who create The Boys, is it Netflix? I don't remember if it's Netflix or if it's Hulu. I
No,
don't
no, no,
remember.
it's
It's
not
not the
exact.
point. The
No, it's not
point
Netflix.
is they are keeping the illusion, the immersion going on even when the show isn't going. You can go
Mm-hmm.
into the boys' YouTube channel, and they're continuously like creating content on there that is related to the show. Like you have the Aquaman, the Deep. You have the Deep. Let's say sometimes
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
reading stuff. You have different types. They're continuing the interest, and I'll tell you something. A lot of different, a lot of different shows who are going to make something on that level. They're going to do the same stuff in the future because this is like the new. Okay, something that was so revolutionary about the Avengers movies back in 2012 when it first came out was this was like the first movie I've ever seen that I can remember that had a post credit scene that was meaningful.
Yeah.
And now, ever since they did it, people were very excited, and then they started doing it for every single movie, and it lost all interest. But this is gonna be a little bit different because now they're creating content that's continuously in people's minds, and people are continuously searching for it. You know, and
Yeah.
I think that's great. I think that's like a live adaptation that did it well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Also, one thing I would say about the boys, just to everybody know, it does follow a few things from the source material, but it also does its own thing. And I think most people also would agree that the boys actually, well, maybe some people will not, but the live action of the boys is far better than the comics, even though there's some really cool twists in the comics. I just heard a lot of people just like saying that like the comics of the boys is far worse than the live adaptation, and it's also telling a different story. So that's also kind of like really interesting, using the same characters, but basically telling an alternative story, but still feeling interesting. That shows you like you can write a good story with same characters and tell us something different, but still use the world. So that's also kind of like why I wanted to talk about it and I forgot about it, because it's just giving you a good example of like actually creating a different story, a different everything, but using the same characters for the most part, and essentially just like doing something very interesting and still just picking your interest.
Yeah, I just can't stop thinking about that show because the show really picked up well in season 3. You know,
Actually, it's fixed already amazingly in season one,
no, it got
but
it picked up it like broke the internet when what's his name laughs in the end of season 3. You know that meme?
uh,
What's
what's
his
his
name?
name?
Homelander. What
Homelander. I don't know why you made me forget about his name. Homelander, yeah, the technically bad guy of the show, although
if
you
Superman
could
basic
argue and
if
say he
Superman
was
had an
molded.
ego,
Yes,
if Superman had an
he
ego,
basically was molded into that. So maybe he's not like supposed to be like he's a bad guy, but he actually also there are some moments that I actually feel bad for him,
no, I
even though
don't.
he's an ass. No, no, no. There are if you've seen the show,
I've
you do
seen the
understand that
show.
like there is some there's a moment of like some points of like you see that he actually cares about his son and everything, and I do feel bad for him in some particular point in that nature, but I also just not root for him because I do think he's Superman that had an ego and he should be stopped. It just I feel like there's some particular things that you can look at this
Uh,
as like if you analyze it more and just saying like father to child, that could be interesting, but that's a whole topic for another time.
yeah, that's a whole topic for another time. So, in in short, I think we're gonna wrap it up pretty much soon. So, I'm going to ask you, what are the good, the bads, and the uglies in your opinion of live adaptations?
Hmm.
We were just talking about this for like a
Well, that's
full
a
hour.
good, yeah. That's a good question because it's really like, don't get me wrong. There are some particular things that you can just like nail here down, but there is also a lot of things that just I could just expand on more, and they're really hard to say. But I think that the things that I think that are the good in live adaptations is basically sticking to the source material in terms of building. If there is a specific things in the world and things that like just done specific in specific way, and you don't really have a good explanation of changing them, don't change them. Stick to the rules. Why do you care so much to change it to your own needs? Not always it has to be this way, and you can actually find a way around it and maybe tell a more interesting story.
Yeah, yeah.
B.
I want to add to that something. So, if anybody ever listens to this and is working on a live adaptation for a big company, we're basically nobodies. But if the chances are slim, but they're never zero, don't
Mm-hmm.
don't bend don't bend the world don't bend the world to your story. Bend the story to the world. Like if you're
Because
creating,
that will make the story more engaging.
because everybody knows the world. We fell in love with the world. We
Mm-hmm.
fell in love with the good moments, the bad moments. We fell in love with all of it already. We're not trying. You're not trying to make us fall in love with it. You're trying to make a story that we would enjoy
Make
because
us
we
love.
already love
Yeah.
it. That's the good.
Make us love the world that you want to create. And if you actually have a good story for yourself, just create a good story. You don't need to just take an existing world and change it. Just create your story because it could be better, and it will not like one of the biggest things like if you piss some people off about fandoms, and I'm not like trying to be like and that's actually can go into the bad thing, is that if you're pissing the people of the fandom, they're not going to watch it and they're going to hate it, even though it could be good because you're just destroying the rules of the world. Now, if it's amazing, that's a whole different story. But the point is just like you could have created your own story without bending the rules, like a world to your rules, and just that story could have been wildly more received and maybe been actually a good story, and people will just like not judge the legitimacy of things and just like look at it with like a micro glass and everything. It's just a lot better to do it that way.
Okay, so
Also,
you
another
you
thing that I
said something.
really.
You said something that I actually want to chime in on, and I just have to like get it out.
Mhm.
So about the bad, you said something that I wanted to bring us back to the beginning of the podcast when we talked about Faye Valentine from Cowboy Bebop. Now, the actress from Cowboy Bebop, as you all know, she kind of smack talked all the fans, saying you don't know what real women are like, which is fine. But the moment
Hmm.
you make an enemy, people have a hard time.
Of your
The
fans.
fans have a hard time separating the art from the artist. I know that
Yes.
I'm going to say something. I don't think we should be separating the art from the artist. You know, I think that a lot of
One of the things that people need to understand is just like, yes, I don't think you should separate the art from the artist, and also because the fact is like, don't make an enemy out of your fandom. These are the people that actually make you, well, if you're a company, the money, and also just like the ones that actually support you. Why would you just actually
the
the beat?
fandom is your boss. You don't want to piss off your boss.
Why would you bite the hand that feeds you?
But
I'm
on
not
the
saying
other
like,
hand,
look at in that hand.
it doesn't mean that you should that you should give in to sexism and racism and all that kind of stuff.
Everything, yes, of course.
That's not what it means. It doesn't mean that you shouldn't say this is what a real woman is like. But don't go saying don't go alienating your entire audience. Don't say
Yes, and say like, oh, you haven't been with a woman and you don't know what women
that's
are
not what
like.
I
Like,
meant. Don't
you're gonna
say
just
if
say,
you
no,
don't.
no, 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 no.
Okay, what do you want to
There
say?
was a better way to word the way that she said it. Basically, there was a better way to word it. Like just saying, this is not what women are like. And for example, I just felt like was too sexist, and that's why I asked for it, or something of that nature. You could have just done it in a little bit of more of like a
So I'm going to say it a little
nice
bit
manner, and people will
differently.
be more
No, I don't
understanding.
agree. I don't agree.
Yes.
So I'm going to say it a little bit
What?
differently. What I think she should have said is, "This is what a real woman looks like." The show was
Hmm.
being very unrealistic. I'm sorry if I'm not if I can't feel what you think they should have looked like. But she ended up saying, if you don't think this way, then this is not for you. And if she said this is not for you, you're alienating your audience.
Not to mention the fact that like sometimes you can just like reduce from your ego, and there are a lot of times that actually will save you some points and brownie muffins with your fandoms that can go a very long way if you actually sometimes reduce yourself and not just focus like, oh, this is what like not reduce yourself basically.
Hmm.
Sometimes you just need to be, nicer to people. It doesn't cost you anything. In fact, it actually wastes less energy than you might realize being nicer to people, because then you don't have to fight them later. So
And
just a
you,
little bit of a tip here.
you know what they say? You get more. You get more bears with honey than with other things.
Yep.
Yeah. And the ugly. This is actually the word. This is actually something that needs to be said. And this is the ugly is, in my opinion, is every person who watches it and let's say likes and likes something tries to convince everyone else that
Oh yeah.
this is the greatest thing ever. It's really not.
Yeah. No.
And then you get the stats, and
No.
then
No.
and then it becomes like a whole war on Twitter or on Reddit or on YouTube, where people like to say, "I liked it, I didn't like it," which is what we're getting right now with the show of She-Hulk. You get a few people who say that it's amazing, who say, "Yeah, the CGI isn't
And a
great,"
lot of
but
people who say that it's bad
and a lot of people who say that
or
it's
don't
bad.
like some people.
I'm gonna be honest. I actually am kind of okay with the She-Hulk series. I think it's, it's a little unrefined, but it's still pretty good. But at the end of the day, I'm not the majority.
Honestly,
I'm actually the
there are some
minority.
particular things that I don't like
I'm very
about
well
it.
aware
Yeah,
of the fact that I'm the
yeah,
minority. And you know what? If it's not for you, then guess what? It's not for you. It's honestly not that much for me
yeah.
either. But I didn't hate it as much as the other ones. Like when Loki was pretty good, but when I watched Moon Knight, I was so hyped going into it because Moon Knight, got me hyped. Then I lost it. Then I lost it towards episode like 2. I watched 2 episodes in, and I
Hmm.
was like, "There's a lot going on," but in the end of the day, the people who are watching it know who Moon Knight is. We don't need to go into his backstory, and it's like,
Yep.
and it's always like that. And they did it again with Wanda and
WandaVision.
WandaVision. Yeah, WandaVision was just it was not good. It really was not good, and
I'm going to say this. I actually didn't really like Loki that much, even though I think like
that's
Loki was
fine.
fine.
It's
But that's a whole
Loki.
different story and a different topic, and it doesn't really matter for right now what my gripes with these kind of shows and series are. But the point is that yes, things are not always for you. And like, yes, if you don't like some particular thing, like for example, I don't like some particular food, don't force me to eat that food every single time. My mother asked me, like, not just giving an example,
You're going to
ask me
eat
why
those
I
bean
don't like.
sprouts and you're gonna like it,
No, no,
mister.
no. Like, she asked me, how the heck do you like apples and you don't like apple cake? And I was just, I don't like apple cake. What do you want me to do? Apple pie, okay? I don't like it. I don't like these particular things, and it's just like, you can't force me, even though I'm in the minority in the house or everything, or just in general. If I even that was the majority, you can't force people to like things that you like if they don't like it.
Oh
If
yeah, and they
you're
go,
trying to just give
and
them a
people will go on
reason.
warpaths. You know,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. If you're trying to give them, like, just give your case and just saying, like, look, these are the things that I like, maybe give it a chance, that's a whole different story. But if you're just going out you're just like, no, you should like it because of this A, B, and C, and it's like, but that doesn't mean I'm going to like it. It just means that you're now kind of just creating a war between people who just hate it and people who like it. And you can just be like a lot more, you know, not forceful on your opinion, which is also another thing.
yeah, I think this is where we are going to wrap it up. So, if you watched and you stayed until this very end, please follow both me and Unfit. I am Dragon Unharm here on YouTube. This is my co-host Unfit or Team NDL. He creates amazing deck profile videos on
Yu-Gi-Oh
Yu-Gi-Oh.
content, basically.
Yu-Gi-Oh, but he
Yes,
does,
Yu-Gi-Oh
but he
is
does
the main
he
thing that I'm doing in my own
yeah,
channel. Yes,
Yu-Gi-Oh is the main thing that he's doing, but maybe he will be doing more here on this channel. Is that true?
maybe we'll have to see and wait and see. At least we're doing this podcast, even though, you know,
We've been talking. So please
yeah,
leave a like, subscribe to both of
that's
us and
that's a
this
whole
channel.
different topic for another time and an
So leave a
update.
like,
Sorry about
subscribe,
that.
and everything. And we will see you guys next time. Bye bye.
And follow us, of course, if you want to see more of
Yeah,
our
follow us for
particular weird
sure.
things that we do. Goodbye.